I think of all of the unexpected things that happened so far this season, right now it's Alonso and Stroll becoming the biggest pairing right now on the grid.
Yeah, very friendly. Need a buddy cop movie with them. Welcome back to Break Check. This is episode 11, season 2, post Azerbaijan Grand Prix recap. I predicted before we started this that this is going to be our shortest episode to date because let me tell you something. That was a bit of a snooze fest. What do you think, Megan?
I'll be honest, I was doing like five other things during most of that race
Yeah.
because I mean, to be fair, too, Friday and Saturday had so much excitement, so much going forward, so much to talk about. So I think
Mhm.
also I was expecting it to be the same today. But
Yeah.
I think it was a good 30 or 40 of the 51 laps that were just pure nothing. So,
Yeah. We can talk about, and I did want to talk about the new sprint race
ugh,
format.
yeah.
I do not like it. I don't like it at all.
I think we can just kick right into that because I
Yeah.
think I honestly I was one of the few last year who actually enjoyed the sprint race setup where it
Yeah.
set the grid for Sunday. I liked the variety and how it was set up because it changed. It was more than just your stereotypical like Red Bull, Ferrari, whatever on the grid at the top. And because sometimes they would have to start from the back and then it could get
Yeah.
funky. Like especially that shootout that they had in the beginning where like Albon was seventh and Norris was up there. Like it just it spices it up a
Yeah.
little bit. And that's what I think is exciting. Especially when these cars are starting to get closer together. But now when all you're doing is just adding additional points, yes, it was really nice for drivers like Charles who scored more points in the sprint in one race than he did the other three races.
Yeah.
But it also I don't see what other benefit there is. You're just like taking the energy out of these guys and hurting the cars.
Yeah, it feels like a gimmick because it's just doesn't like the sprint race. I know it had its critics last year, like the original sprint race format, but it felt like a continuation of qualifying and like
Mm-hmm.
it felt like a nice little precursor to the race and it felt like it was a part of the weekend. This just feels completely detached.
Mm-hmm.
Um, qualifying on Friday, which is strange
Yeah.
still to me, but then Saturday we have the sprint shootout before the sprint race, which you can just call it qualifying for the sprint race.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with Sunday. It just
Mm-hmm.
it just feels like a gimmick to me.
Yeah. I don't understand. I can't imagine they keep the same format for next year because it's getting even more negative feedback now, especially
Yes.
from drivers. Like last year, in the year prior, I think some drivers were a little bit like, yeah, I don't really care for it. I don't really get it. But this year, I mean, Albon said it's so boring. Hamilton
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I don't think it's necessary. So I think more drivers are starting to be outspoken about how much they dislike it. I also
Yes.
one other comment think Baku is not the race to have it at if you want people like
No.
racing because it's a
Yeah.
street circuit. Don't pick a street circuit. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even like old sprint format, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think any street circuits should have sprint races. They are not known for their racing. So to put an extra race during the weekend just does not make any sense.
No. No. So that was a bit disappointing. I think qualifying was quite interesting. But yeah, I think ultimately, I mean, the sprint shootout took out Logan Sargent. He couldn't even participate in the sprint race.
Yeah, yeah,
So which a lot of people seem to be hitting those corners, which we could talk about too during when we get
yes,
into it. But
yeah,
man, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. I think it's pretty pointless, but I get it could make or break some drivers' positions with these extra points. Of course, not everyone, because a lot of these drivers aren't going to make it into the top eight. But
right.
for drivers like Hamilton, Russell, Charles, even like Max and Perez, it's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean Perez maximized his points this weekend, won the sprint race and the regular race.
Hmm.
Obviously, we'll touch on the regular race later, but helped him close the gap on Max. Now just 6 points behind him in the World Driver Championship.
Do you think we're going to get a battle next week at Miami?
No, I think Max is going to win. I am an enormous Checo Perez fan. I love him.
Hmm.
I think he is one of the most underrated drivers on the grid. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, and we can talk about the commentating today during
Ugh,
the
yeah.
race. But I need to see Perez take it to Max and beat Max on a standard track and a
Hmm.
faster track. Perez is probably the best street circuit driver on the grid just
Hmm.
because of the way he drives. So yeah, he's gonna win those. I think before I can start saying that I actually think he's gonna like compete with him for this World Driver Championship, I need to see him
Hmm.
do it on a track that does not suit his strong suits.
Honestly, that's a really good point because I
Yeah,
think that makes a huge difference in some of these drivers and how they perform. Because even Signs is the same, where like there are certain tracks where you know he can
yeah,
perform in, but then some
hmm
of these other tracks he's really, really struggling, and it's a consistent thing. So
right,
I
right,
think it really separates drivers too, just in terms of just not that say that
yeah,
Perez isn't a great driver, but
no,
I don't think it really matters where Max is. He's just going to perform well, at his best.
yeah, and this goes to say I think Sergio Perez can get second at every single track on the
Yeah.
calendar, but he to actually compete with Max has to win some races that maybe he shouldn't win.
Yeah. I honestly, because I can't remember if I don't think Miami's like necessarily a straight track, but I know it doesn't have a ton of overtaking in it either.
I
So
think it's technically in spirit a streak track, but
yeah,
it's
I think
it's fast.
yeah, it's a fast circuit with not a lot of not a lot of
Yeah,
opportunities to overtake. So I do expect as long as nothing goes wrong, Max will win. But I could
yeah,
also see on the flip side something happening or Max losing his patience and Perez
mhm.
winning again, which would then also likely put him ahead unless Max gets like first and fastest or
Yeah,
whatever. But
yeah.
um that'll be interesting if that happens. But
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that because
yeah.
I mean we've said it before. Checo is the only chance for anyone to compete
Hmm.
with Max this year.
Hmm.
I will say he is having a stronger start to the year than he did last year. Checo
Oh
looks
yeah.
sharp right now, like he looks very good. Um, I guess we're just talking about Red Bull. Did you
Yeah.
see anything else from Red Bull like during the race that maybe jumped out at you?
I mean, do we want to mention the Max and Russell debacle?
Yeah,
I feel like that was a hot topic.
I
I mean, also let alone just Max had so much sass this weekend.
yes,
I sent a photo of it to you. It was the comment where they're like, "Oh, nice job, Max." Or it was like, I think it was during the sprint or
yeah,
qualifying. He's like, "Oh, nice job. No damage done either." And he's like, "Yeah, I know how to do that." Like for what? I just bit
yeah,
unnecessary. And then yeah, threatening George with, watch out for next time. And it's
calling
like
him
I
a
meant that.
dickhead.
Yeah, calling him dickhead.
I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I'm a little bit on Max's side after on
Hmm.
that specific kind of scrap that they had. Oh, I said this to you over text. I think George Russell's like charm is like wearing off on me a little bit. I I think I used to sympathize with him when people said that he was like a PR merchant, like
Hmm.
he had the perfect public image and like no personality, and I'd always be like, no, he's just like a nice guy. And I think now that he's not like a sweet young driver, like just happy to be there, he's kind of boring.
See, it's actually funny that you are actually on Max's side because I kind of think I'm on George's side on this one.
Okay.
And not because I mean, I thought more of like not in the sense that I think Max was wrong because I can understand his frustration,
Yeah.
but Max is the queen of not giving people space.
Oh
So
yeah.
for the same move to be done to him and him get that upset about it, it's like, sir,
Yeah.
it's playing your own hands. Like it's just so I thought it was a bit funny
Yes.
that he got so mad about it because I think George was just kind of playing his own game.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
and also it was kind of funny too because Lando was on George's side, apparently, according to Twitter.
Hmm.
And Lando and Max are quite good friends, so that was interesting as well.
Oh,
But
that is interesting. Lando
mhm.
Norris. took the entire race today to pass Nico Hulkenberg.
He was struggling. It sucks because he didn't have pace, dude. I felt so
Yeah.
bad. Like that McLaren, first of all, impressive that he's even in the top 10.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess for like 20 laps or something, he could not get
No.
behind. Like it was just truck
Yeah.
was just yeah, struggling.
Nico Hulkenberg and Esteban Ocon, I believe, both starting from the pit lane,
Yeah.
right?
And yeah.
Uh, went the whole race without pitting, both of them.
Yeah.
Hoping for a safety car. Which I will say, besides the one safety car with Nick DeVries, who we can talk about later, he's just
Mm-hmm.
not doing it. This was a very clean race.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of backfired on Ocon and Hulkenberg in terms of scoring points because they had to pit at the end. Hulkenberg eventually pit. Ocon waited until the last lap. And
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, so did you see that camera angle of him coming
Oh,
to
it
the
was
pit?
crazy.
People
Yeah.
were running away from the car.
They were so close. And he had to slow
Yes.
down even more just to like try not to hopefully hit them.
Yeah.
I think it was super unprofessional. Whoever, I don't know whose responsibility that was to check. And I
Hmm.
know they are no longer allowed to be in the like fences anymore. But yeah, I mean, guys, come on, like just pay a little bit more attention. I don't know. I just thought that was like a really silly mistake that could have been a little vehicular mess, just like murder
Yeah.
from
Yes.
Ocon.
Yeah. Um. Real quick before we move on from Ocon, Alpine just not having a good year. Pierre had a horrendous
Horrible
weekend.
weekend. Oh my God.
Yes.
The guy's car was on fire during FP1. Then he crashed or bumped the wall in qualifying and was ended up out of Q1. And then I don't know. I don't know what was happening this weekend or today during the race, but he was just really
Yeah.
struggling. So not a good weekend for him at all.
And McLaren obviously disappointing so far this year, but they at least seem to have a pulse. Alpine just seems just dead fifth place, you know?
Yeah. And even barely at that, like I could see
Yeah,
McLaren
yeah.
passing them if they keep it up because
Hmm.
it's just I mean, to be fair, McLaren I think had a really good weekend. Oh, I mean, Lando, it sucked with Lando, pitting and then getting stuck with the safety car and then having to like trail behind Hulkenberg. But
Yeah,
otherwise, like every single race he was in the top 10, top 12. Like he was
yeah,
really placing himself well. And he's been doing that pretty much since the last two races, I would say. And then Piastri was so close into points. So
yeah.
I
He was
think
sick
that
all weekend too.
right. Yeah, I saw that. So good for Piastri. I think they're starting to figure it out. I don't expect them to like be significant this year, but it's nice
Yeah,
to see Lando being able to get a lot out of that car.
yeah. I think a few weeks back we asked each other who the most disappointing team was, and we both said Ferrari.
Hmm.
I do have a changed answer. I think there is a different team that is most disappointing.
Alvin?
No, Alfa Romeo.
Oh, you're right. That's true. That is really
Yeah,
sad, man.
I
Ugh.
don't both cars. I don't know what's going on. They were not that bad last year.
No, I know Botas got stuck in the beginning at like the second turn or something.
Yeah,
He like kind of like had to back out. And that caused him to drop like five places, I think.
yeah,
And then he just couldn't really pick it back up. Joe had to retire. They both have had issues, I think, in every single weekend so
yeah.
far.
And I know uh the Ferrari power unit not the most reliable, but I mean
Mm-hmm.
Haas is like holding their own, so far
Yeah.
this year. So and I think Alfa Romeo, we both had decent expectations for them in the midfield because I think they
Yeah.
have a good veteran driver that maximizes points pretty well, but the car just is not responding. And again, they did lose their team principal
True.
to
And he
Ferrari,
was good.
who
So
he was very good with them. So, but definitely for me has been the most disappointing team this year.
yeah, that's true because unlike some of the other teams, I think they're performing pretty as expected. Like I didn't expect Haas to be any better than they are right now. I think
Yeah,
if anything, Williams is surprising me in the positive way a bit.
yeah,
Um, I think. McLaren is, doing a little bit
Hmm.
better
Yeah,
than I
yeah.
was expecting. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a good point, though.
Most disappointing team. Moving on to, I think most disappointing driver so far this year has been Nick DeVries.
Oh my
Um,
God, the poor
y-
dude. He's
eh,
not
eh,
picking it up.
no, I want to say not all his fault, but a lot of his fault.
When you
And
have Yuki in the top 11 every race,
yeah,
I don't know.
also I think Yuki's doing a really good job
I'm so happy he
to,
got points. We
yeah,
predicted it and it happened.
yeah. I think he's doing a really good job to like audition to stick around in F1 after this year. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy for Yuki.
Yeah, I'm really excited for him. I hope he stays another year. I don't expect him to. But I think him and I'm sure Liam Lawson's gonna come in next year.
Yeah.
I would be shocked, honestly, if he didn't. I am a bit disappointed in DeVries, though. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I was thinking about this because in the season end of The Last Drive to Survive, when they talked to DeVries and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be the number one driver. And he's so confident and so bold and making all these really like abrasive statements for having not been in a season yet. And then he has just been trailing behind. It's a bit like karma, but I do feel really bad because I was not expecting it.
I think Nick is a very prepared racing professional throughout his whole
Mm-hmm.
life. And I think you got to look at the team he was going to and the driver he was going to be competing against. And what I think he saw Yuki,
Mm-hmm.
obviously there is like there's always a lot of like non racing chatter around Yuki about his personality, his decision
Mm-hmm.
making. He runs a bit on like the more temper, uh, short, like he has a bit of a short temper, stuff like that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
Nick DeVries thought, oh, like I've been training for this my whole life. Like this is going to be easy. And he forgot one thing, and that is that Yuki is really
Really.
fast. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Just natural ability. So
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why Yuki was in like one series a year because he just
yes,
kept moving.
yeah,
So I'm just so excited. I mean, I feel bad for Ocon because he was in ninth for like the majority of the race. And then, of course,
right,
he had a pit, so he lost it. But it did push Yuki out of 11th into 10th, still breaking that like 11th curse that he was having in the
yeah,
beginning of the year. So
yeah.
excited for another point for him.
I was gonna ask if we want to talk about Mercedes. Not a lot to talk about, I don't think.
No, yeah, I was just looking through my notes. I don't think I had a single note on Hamilton because I think he was doing really well, but there was only so much he could do in that Mercedes. I mean, he was struggling to even pass signs and stuff. And
Yeah,
I mean, he was able to pass Russell and stuff again after the restart, or after the safety
yeah,
car.
yeah.
And then I think Russell was doing all right. Yeah, I don't think the car's just there yet.
No, Hamilton screwed a little bit. It screwed a lot by the safety car.
Oh, yeah.
Probably would have been battling with Charles and Fernando
Hmm.
had that safety car not. No, he would have been battling with Charles and Fernando if that safety car didn't happen. But yeah, Mercedes kind of a under the radar weekend. Didn't really do a
Hmm.
whole lot. I don't know. Something's off about Mercedes so
Yeah,
far.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with them. There's something though.
Um, I have no idea what it is. It's obviously all just speculative for me, but I'm a little worried Lewis is not going to come back. I think he might switch teams, but then again, I think about it and I'm like, where would he go
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
offer a better chance than Mercedes?
Yeah. I think if anything, they're debating the length because I think Lewis probably, my assumption is Lewis wants more flexibility, whereas Mercedes wants more security,
Yeah,
potentially. Because
yeah,
Lewis has other options. Mercedes, if they take in someone else, it's a whole new era. It's a whole new rebuild. Like they can't, they're going to be relying on George a lot. And I don't know who they would even take because Lando's contract isn't over yet.
yeah.
Charles's isn't over yet. Like Perez, like there's no one really that would fill that, and I don't think they would risk it on Daniel either, to be honest.
I
So,
was gonna say I don't think they. I think they. Not that Mick is a bad driver. I do think they did him a bit of a solid by taking him as the reserve, but I don't think they
mhm.
want to put him in their car.
No, I don't think so. Not now. Maybe in like
Yeah,
5 years if he wins something.
right, right.
But
um well, that's a so this is again just speculative. This is me
Mhm,
just thinking this up. Do you think that Mercedes does not, maybe the team Mercedes, Toto, does
mhm.
not feel comfortable fully handing the keys to George yet, and they want Lewis to stay for longer than Lewis wants to stay?
I 100% think so.
Okay. I
Uh-huh.
think so too.
Yeah. Not that I think they think George is bad, but I don't think they want to rely on George yet. Like I don't think they want him yet to be his number one.
Yeah.
Um, and also I kind of think too is that Mercedes knows they won't have the best car in the next year, maybe in the next two. So they want Lewis to stay for like maybe 3 years and give him a better car then.
Yeah.
Um, but Lewis might want to be done at, in 2 years or so and or like want
Right.
that flexibility of being
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
leave the contract early or whatever. So I could totally see that being the reason too, where Mercedes is trying to coax them to stay longer, probably to give them a little bit more time. And
Yeah.
Lewis is like, no.
Yeah, I feel like when they've talked to the press too, like there's never been any indication that
Mm-hmm.
Lewis or the team is prepared for him to look at other options. They are both all still saying like, no, he's going to be back, but yeah, definitely. I think the details are being debated.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. The only other comment I had about this weekend really was I'm kind of disappointed in Signs from this weekend.
Oh, he
Um,
sucked.
yeah, okay, thank you. I was like, I don't,
No, he
I'm trying
sucked
to
this
sugarcoat
weekend.
it. Well, what was so funny is on his radio, they're like, yeah, we checked, everything good, tires are good, you can
Yeah.
like go hunting, is what they said. And then he didn't. He did nothing. If anything, he
No.
increased the gap between them. And it was funny because he was asking, like, he's like, oh, or like, are Charles and Lando or Alonso fighting? And people on Twitter were like, go find out, catch
Yeah,
up, like, get
literally,
in there.
you're in the same car.
Like, what are you doing? It's just, yeah, I just don't feel like there was anything coming from him. I know I saw somewhere that he might have been feeling off this
Oh, okay.
weekend. So if that's the case, I get it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, yeah, I was just kind of shocked. I just expected him to be a little bit closer into that battle.
Yeah, I agree. This was a good weekend for Charles.
Yeah, I'm so happy for him.
I think this was a a prime a prime race for
Hmm.
him to do what we talked about,
Yeah.
where he obviously cannot compete with the Red Bulls, but he still
No.
just pushes the car until it explodes to do
Yeah.
so. And he didn't do it. And I'm glad he did, because Charles is a world driver, champion caliber driver. And he
Hmm.
needs to show that if he had an equal car to the Red Bull, he would
Right.
be beating them. And I think that's what he did today. And
A
he needs to
hundred
keep
percent.
doing that. He needs to keep, it would have been easy for him as when
Hmm.
Max first tried to pass him to just go, because it's what he's
Yeah.
done a couple times in the past. I'm glad he did not do it today.
I know. Oh my gosh. I think this is what he needed to just get out of his funk because he's
Yes.
been in such a sad rap the last couple of weeks. So I think he just needed this. And now he's back up there. He got so many points this weekend with the help of the sprint race, which also I think probably boosted his confidence a bit.
Yes.
Um, in qualifying and all of that. So I'm really excited for him. Um, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens these next couple races. I just hope they can, keep up with it.
Yeah. My last question I have
Hmm.
is, how long do you think until Max starts playing dirty with Checo? Do you think it is if he's still like within shot, like halfway through? Do you
Hmm.
think it's as soon as Checo overtakes him, if that happens in the World Driver
Hmm.
Championship?
Hmm.
Because he's playing nice right now. How long do you think until he just is like done being diplomatic?
If Checo wins Miami, the gloves are coming off for
Okay.
Max. I don't think it's very long. If Perez, because if Perez wins, they'll either be tied or like a point or two away, depending on like who gets the fastest lap and where
Yeah.
Max falls.
Well,
Like if it's a one,
I think
because
he's six. Go ahead.
he's six now, and then if he won again, if they got the same positions again, then they would be tied. So it would be based
Mhm.
solely off of like who has, I think,
Oh,
the
okay. I guess I thought the difference was 7. I thought it was 25 and 18.
oh shoot, you're right. Yeah,
So
you're
I
right.
think
So Perez
if
would be
Perez
ahead.
wins, he'd be
He would be
ahead.
ahead. Yeah.
Also, if Perez wins Miami, I actually think he can compete this year.
Yeah. If he
I
wins,
think
I think he's yeah. Yeah, I think if he wins, it's game over and Max is going all out.
okay.
Max is a yeah. And I'm curious because I don't think Max is gonna play nice with that. I don't think he's gonna care about team
No,
orders. I don't think he's gonna give a
no.
shit. He's gonna
Yeah.
fight. So
I would be curious to see a World Driver Championship battle between the most aggressive driver and the most defensive driver on the grid.
honestly, it would be really
Yeah.
good. I think we need that. I mean, it's nice that it sucks that it's again between like two people on the same team, but it's
Right.
nice that it's not the same two drivers that it was for like the last like 5 years or whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Where
um
Checo Perez would be the most random world driver champion in F1.
it
No, he
really the
wouldn't be the
most
most
unexpected.
random because he's got. There's one like in the 70s, I think, that I saw people on TikTok saying is like the most random like F1 champion. Checo Perez would be up there though.
You would definitely be in like the top five or so, most
Yeah,
like
yeah.
unexpected.
Hmm.
Yeah. Definitely like one of those things where everyone's like, oh yeah, I want to be a world driver. And you're like, sure, you know, whatever you want. You can do anything, but then it actually happens.
Yeah.
Uh I
Sorry, I
know what
interrupted you.
no, you're fine. I just wanted to throw out the one news bit that
Mm.
Ferrari recruited the head of aerodynamics from Red Bull for the next year.
Mm.
And it seems like Frederick, the guy at Ferrari, is trying to take on a lot more people from that team, which I presume if the head of aerodynamics is going, some of his favorited people might head on over to Ferrari too. So I think we could see a really, really good Ferrari car next year if this all works well together. But
Yeah, you sound like you're taking your Packers fandom to F1 right now.
listen, Packers are just, we got to see what happens this season after that draft. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's all I really got. I think we actually
Mhm.
covered most of the teams.
Yeah, I think it was a good, early weekend. It was definitely interesting. Race not the most exciting, but that's all right.
What are you gonna do?
We have Miami next weekend, so and I'll be back in the States, so that'll be really cool.
Yes, perfect. Before we go, any our official Miami predictions, you can go.
All right. Perez 1, Verstappen 2, Alonso 3.
That is also my prediction. Minus, I think Charles gets third again.
I mean, I would love to have Charles third again.
Yeah,
We'll see. I
yeah,
know he didn't have great luck last time, but that wasn't his fault. So,
right, yeah.
but yeah. Okay. And then maybe Sunoda points again. Why not? Let's throw him in there.
I want
10th
Yuki
place
to
again.
keep. I want Yuki to keep killing
Just
it.
keep
Yeah.
riding that 10th place. Like,
Mhm.
why not? Um, yeah, we'll see.
That's all I've got.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Nice quick little recap. We'll be back next week with another one, but you can check out our other episodes on all of the streaming platforms. We have clips on our social medias. So go follow all of that. Break Check F1.